While there is such a saying as I am cringe, but I am free, I fear that, much like everything else in the world, that has been taken too far. Now, we are talking about a pedophile today, so what we're discussing is far beyond the no crime that is cringe, but this kind of overlaps with cringe. And so I thought we could have a tiny hee-hee about that before we get into the horrors of it all. I'm going to tell you right now, I get almost immediately suspicious of TikToker men, women also, but especially TikToker men because I can think of more examples, who bank on their looks once they're in their late 30s and on. They're still making the type of content that you see 18-year-olds on TikTok making, right? Content that is not exactly a thirst trap, but thirst trap adjacent in a worse way. Example, so I would much rather the guy who's on TikTok showing his abs, biting his lip, trying to act sexy because at least that's overt and we all know what you're doing. On the other hand, if you're being the performative male who's like, I'm a singer-songwriter because I feel everything so deeply. I'm going to try and not say something horrible, but that's one of the worst things I could honestly imagine, beyond crimes like murder and pedophilia. So this guy gives me that vibe, the vibe of I'm making content, but not for the sake of the content, for the sake of me being in the content so people look at me and tell me I'm pretty. Without further ado, let me show you one quick TikTok of this person before we get into why they're on this channel, which realistically, if I'm talking about you, it's by default bad news. Actually, that would be kind of cool as a merch piece, bringer of bad news. Like, I know that that's great for my channel because that's what this channel is, but I would totally wear that on a daily basis. So let me know if that's interesting to you or any other thing you'd like to see on merch for that matter. Anyway.
So there's this band that I absolutely adore. You might have seen me wearing their t-shirt before. They are called Etran de Leer. I hope I'm pronouncing it right. I don't pronounce foreign words that well, but anyway, I love this band. They are so good and they are so fun to dance to. And right now they are supposed to be going on tour into our country, but because of Donald Trump's freaking visa thing, they can't come and tour and make money and help fuel the arts economy, which is part of the world's economy. I am heartbroken that they are not coming to the States and that I'm not going to see them.
You have to go and check these guys out. They're amazing. They're so fun. Their music is incredible. So much fun to dance to. So groovy. I can't believe they're here right now. Etran de Leer, go and check them out.
Now that you've seen a tiny little sliver of his content, maybe you can understand what I'm saying when you can just tell that someone's filming themselves so they can watch themselves after as opposed to listen to what they were saying or whatever they're showing. It's almost like they're just doing things on screen so they can be on screen. That is this guy in a nutshell. Also, you guys know I try to not comment on appearance. I will say, if someone asked me to guess how old this man was, I wouldn't say late 30s. Anyway, let's talk about why this man is even on my radar. Man with 1 million TikTok followers arrested after decade-long sexual abuse investigation. A Chatham man has been arrested after investigators say they uncovered a decade of reported sexual abuse involving multiple victims. The New York State Police Bureau of Criminal Investigation in Livingston announced the arrest of 39-year-old Benjamin Gleason of Chatham following what state police described as an extensive investigation into allegations of sexual abuse involving multiple victims. Now, if you go into the comment sections under his videos, everyone is understandably and justifiably calling him out for being a degenerate of the worst sort. And amidst these comments, one of the most dominant ones is different versions, but all the same, screenshots of what exactly he's being investigated for. So I'll put the screenshot here, and there are multiple different formats of the same screenshot. We have sexual assault, we have rape, forcible compulsion, we have rape, intercourse, female, physically helpless, criminal sex act, degree by forcible compulsion, aggravated sexual abuse, compulsion second degree, sexual abuse first degree. There are supposedly, I believe it was 18 counts. So When we're talking about this guy, it's the equivalent of talking about those pop punk bands we all loved that went to Warped Tour and then like a big chunk of them ended up being pedophiles. That is kind of comparable to the degree of crime in the sense of not a pedophile necessarily, but nonetheless a sexual abuser. State police said the investigation began in February 2026 after information was developed regarding incidents of sexual abuse. As the investigation progressed, police said it was determined the abuse occurred for 10 years and involved multiple victims. Let me just say the obvious. The fact that he could go on and just keep doing this shit for 10 years is absolutely wild and terrifying, because it's like, wow, so you just never got consequences at any point. And clearly these people reported these crimes. Like, I very much doubt that between when the police started their investigation and now all these people just came out of the woodwork from the past 10 years. No. So what I'm understanding is they never bothered to look into it or investigate until now, even though there's been an accumulation of victims. So that's terrifying. That really solidifies you never really know who you're dealing with, because as we see here, you might just be free by mistake, but nonetheless free. Gleason was arrested March 20th, 2026 and charged with 3 counts of predatory sexual assault, Class A felonies, 3 counts of rape in the first degree, forcible compulsion, Class B felonies, 3 counts of rape in the first degree, physically helpless, Class B felonies, 4 counts of criminal sexual act in the first degree, Class B felonies, aggravated sexual abuse in the second degree, a Class C felony, sexual abuse in the first degree, forcible compulsion, a Class D felony, criminal sexual act in the third degree, a Class E felony, and a rape in the third degree, a Class E felony. Now, I know I showed you the screenshot, but just reading out the felonies out loud, I think gives not a different impression. It did give me goosebumps just because of the sheer amount of violence that this includes. And honestly, it's so jarring to me when I see people online trying to kind of seem like the quirky soft boy, and then they're like this. And this is a big part of why I'm suspicious of the content creators, women also, because again, this is not exclusive to any gender, older demographic trying to look hot on an app when it's clear that you're not pandering for what I would call authentic or pure purposes. Like, if you are a person who's looking to date someone and you don't want to go on the dating apps and you just want to kind of maybe meet someone on social media, it's fair enough. Do your thirst traps, pretend to be the quirky, artistic guy, whatever, okay, whatever. However, it's because so many of these cases end up being connected to people like this that it's like, it seems performative. Because now I'm like, were you ever the quirky, artistic, soft guy that you're trying to portray? Or are you actually a violent criminal for all intents and purposes? Because those two things are quite polarly opposite. But more than anything, it's the fact that you are so diehard posing in one way while being very drastically in the other, which also makes me tend to believe that you're a massive fucking liar. But I digress. State police said Gleason was lodged in the Columbia County Jail pending arraignment. Investigators said they believe there may be additional victims and asked anyone with information to contact the New York State Police. And here's the number in case anyone comes across the video and they know of or were, God forbid, a victim of this person. That's where we're at right now. It's so crazy to me because sometimes I really do think about how advanced a lot of things are right now. Like the fact that you can use AI to ask any question and it will answer it. Though you shouldn't. You should use your brain or Google, but whatever about that. But we have all this big advancement, but it seems like the very basics we don't have a grasp on, because the way that the police has operated, not just in this case, honestly, but in other cases as well, is like, okay, so it's great. We can talk to computers and computers can talk back to us, but we can't do the basics of keeping people safe because the police seemingly didn't look into all of these felonies until now, question mark. And so as much as I feel like we've advanced so much, it's like we're advancing in the wrong things. Because ideally, I would like for us to be very advanced on the safety note, on the justice note, and that's not really the direction we're going in. But hey, if you ask ChatGPT to generate some fuck-ass image, it can do it, so Hooray. So anyway, I wanted to look at a couple more TikToks because when my mom's visiting, right, for her birthday. And so I was trying to explain what this case was about, and she was asking me what his TikToks were, like what kind of content creator he was. And I think she was expecting me to say like, oh, he's a reviewer of music albums, or he talks about true crime. But when I went to look at his content, I actually had a really hard time explaining this particular genre, kind of the same way that I had a hard time explaining the genre of, you know, like the really popular TikTokers like Natalie Reynolds or Brooke Monk, who, no shade to them, but it's like they kind of just dance in front of the camera or recite memes and act out the memes, and that's fine, but it's just very difficult to explain to someone who's not online. Anyway, I don't know what to call this genre of buffoonery.
So right now, Online Ceramics is doing a cool thing where they're giving a discount for a mystery t-shirt. Basically, they get to choose what t-shirt they send you. You just choose the size. Let's do it unboxing, unbagging, unwrapping, whatever. I love this company. No matter what it is, I know I'll like it. Ooh. The mystery. Okay, here it comes. Oh, it's a tie-dye. No way. I was expecting a long sleeve, and they sent me I was expecting a short sleeve, and they sent me a long sleeve dead shirt. New York? I live in New York.
All right, swagged out. I love this shirt. I nailed it. They nailed it. Thank you, Online Ceramics. This is dope. Down in El Paso, I fell in love with a Mexican girl.
Yeah, so like, how do you describe that content? That was a one-off video. I didn't see that many other clothing reviews. Not that I would turn to this particular person for that, but you know, a lot of this content also, to be clear, has copyrighted music, so I don't want to show you content that relies on having the context of what the copyrighted music is saying, because otherwise it wouldn't make sense. So I'm going to leave those out, but there are quite a few videos where he's just lip syncing to a song, but the song has a particular message, and I guess that's the message. Again, like I said, very difficult content to categorize. Like, a lot of this feels like OG TikTok, if that makes sense. Though those were usually like 13-year-old girls. So as you can see, these are some of his TikToks where he's just kind of singing along to songs. I think I have a little bit of shock when I see this, because it really does seem like, as opposed to someone who's just having fun, because there are plenty of content creators that I follow who are older, like vastly older, 60s, 70s, 80s. This guy just looks like he's not necessarily even having fun. It feels like these are thirst traps without him admitting that they're thirst traps. So obviously, I mean, he has his shirt on or whatever, but it seems like he's trying to be like... Also, a lot of his TikToks, considering he has 1 million followers, don't really make sense in terms of the ratio of views to likes to comments. I'll pick a random video with my eyes closed and we'll see how many comments it has, okay?
That's very sweet. I really do appreciate that.
This one, it says, "I know you'd be a cool ass grandpa." And then he just blabbers something, who cares? And 390 likes. And this was from March 3rd. Granted, maybe that's an unpopular video. Let me just pick another one. 19,000 views. This one has 19,000 views. And 15 comments, 472 likes. Now, granted, much like any algorithm, they can be really fucky, and sometimes your posts don't show up, maybe you're shadow banned, whatever. I'm just wondering, were these followers organic or not? Because realistically, this makes me question that. Unless these followers were accumulated so long ago and then, you know, people stop being interested, but they kind of still follow him or something. That's happened to me as well. So there are plenty of people I still follow that I actually don't check their content at all. Perhaps that, who knows. Also, there's a big connection between this man and Lil Peep. I'm not really sure what it is because I think he posted at one point and Lil Peep was in the post. That's what some of the comments are alluding to, and honestly, I haven't found that post. Granted, I haven't watched every single video because they're kind of the same and I don't need to see you lip syncing to like a billion songs.
No. I am Benji. Lil Peep passed away. And it's probably not great for people who truly loved him, like his family, to see people all the time saying stuff like, Lil Peep's still alive, oh my god, Lil Peep. You know, because when somebody dies, it brings a lot of pain, of course, to their loved ones. So I don't mind people being like, yo, reppin' Lil Peep, that's what's up. But this is kind of a weird thing to throw out there, and you know, probably not very nice for the people that loved him.
Now, I'm very curious to see what is going to happen with this court case, mainly because I kind of wonder, who are these people? Were any of these people his viewers? Any of the people that he assaulted or abused? Like, what was the context in which all of this happened? Not because it'll change anything in terms of my mind, because these are crimes that have absolutely no explanation, justification, or excuse, to be very clear. But I'm still very curious about the circumstances, because when we see predators with big followings, with this type of online presence, my first thought is, oh yeah, you're going to use your online presence as leverage, right? Because you have a lot of followers, people might assume you have a lot of money, you have influence to some extent, and some people, especially younger people, might be very taken aback by that in a positive way, very blown away, and that's how you can kind of bring them to you, you know, have them meet up with you. They fangirl, they're interested. So I'm wondering if he actually used that or if this was completely separate from the internet. I'm wondering what role TikTok may have had, because there were even people in his comments. I didn't screenshot it because these were minors, but there were minors even posting saying, I'm in love with you. And then someone would comment back, sending a screenshot of the crimes he committed. And the person would respond being like, oh, I know, I don't care. And I'm like, granted, these are minors, so depending on how minor they are, perhaps they don't really grasp what they're saying I don't care about. But nonetheless, you see how this would be an excellent place for a predator to find people who don't care that he's even been committing these types of crimes for a decade and that still fangirl over him and are in love with him allegedly, right? So I would love to know what kind of role TikTok and social media had in all of this. Also because, again, when I was talking about the advancements before, you know, like we have AI, we have all this technology, whatever, it still seems like we can't make platforms as safe as possible. And granted, there's no 100% safe. Humans are weird and unpredictable, but at the same time, it just seems like there are no guardrails for minors online, or conversely, the people who are looking for either minors online or people online that may be vulnerable and easier to abuse, if not worse. Anyway, you guys can let me know what you think in the comments down below. Honestly, this is an interesting case, mainly because most of the time I have an idea of who these people are, but this man, I'd literally not heard of him, and I'm still not really sure what his content is beyond lip syncing and sometimes showing shirts he got, question mark, or playing songs. I don't know. Thank you guys so much for watching. Thank you to my patrons as always, and I'll catch you guys next time.